Good morning, good morning. We are in the Tarot City of the Hermit. Let me go ahead and adjust this. That's original Rider-Waite. Wildwood Tarot. Tarot of the Abyss. Star Tarot. The Wandering Star Tarot. The Winter Tarot. The Mystical Moments Tarot. The Tarot of the Divine. Golden Art Nouveau Tarot, the Good Tarot, and the Lightseers Tarot. And I know we said we didn't have any more to add to the mix, but as of yesterday, this is new to me deck. This is from the Wild Unknown Tarot. The Wild Unknown Tarot. This is... Look at him. Isn't he the cutest? And it's interesting because I never really, I've seen this deck before, but I've never, been I've got to have it, you know? But yesterday at the gathering, she brought it and it was just, I don't know, it just felt like she needed to come home. But look at look how it's like an oil lamp on top. And I don't know, I don't know. So it hits different now than it has in the past looking at it. Like in different, like online when people would use it or something. I don't know. And this card specifically, maybe haven't gotten past this. I haven't done any. This is as far as I've gotten, so I can't tell you any more about if I resonate with the rest of them or not. But he's just like, I don't know, cuddled up in my little heart right now. All right, let's do this. So today's book is 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and let's dive in. Now, this is a longer one. This is one of the Big Mama books, so grab your cup of tea. Or coffee. That's my coffee. I tried to quit coffee. It didn't last. Okay. Like the six-pointer star within the Hermit's lantern, the idea of the Hermit goes in two directions. One inner, one outer. Primarily, the card means a withdrawal from the outer world for the purpose of activating the unconscious mind. When we see this process symbolized in the downward pointing water triangle, as the alchemist called it, but the Hermit also signifies a teacher who will show us how to begin the process and will help us find our way. The upward pointing fire triangle symbolizes a special guide who might be an occult leader, therapist, our own dreams, or even a spirit guide evoked from within the self. The image of the Hermit occupied a special place in the medieval imagination, living in the woods or the desert, totally withdrawn from all the normal concerns of humanity. The Hermit presented an alternative to the church, the European version of a yogi aesthetic. He demonstrated the possibility of approaching God through personal experience. People often looked upon the hermits as living saints and attributed magic powers to them, in the way of that yoga disciples will tell wonderful stories about their masters. Though the hermit withdrew from society, he or she did not withdraw from humanity. Among other functions, they give shelter and sometimes blessings to travelers. Countless stories, especially the Grail legends, depict the Hermit who acts as a giver of wisdom to the knight on a spiritual quest. Again, we see the Hermit's double image, example, and guide. The Hermit image has persisted long after the special practice has died away. The transcendental philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson traveled days through remote Scotland to find the cabin of Thomas Carlyle. Emerson's friend. Henry David Thoreau himself lived in a cabin at Walden Pond to find a sense of himself and of nature. He then wrote about it as an example to others. Nietzsche's Deus sprach Zarathustra. I don't know. Enshrined the hermit's image. The book begins with Zarathustra's return from achieving personal transformation, and today countless people have given themselves to Eastern gurus in the hope that this hermit-like teacher can transform their lives. I am not one for guru culture. We all stand on common ground here, darling. For those who cannot find an actual guide, the psyche will often provide one. Jung and his followers have described their patients many dreams of wise old men guiding them on mysterious journeys into the psyche. In many cases, dream analysis discovered that the dream guide actually stood for the therapist. The unconscious can recognize a hermit teacher before the conscious mind can. The great 13th century Kabbalist Abraham Abulafia described 3 levels of Kabbalah. The first was doctrine, that which can be learned from text. The second came from the direct guidance given by the personal teacher, while the third is the most developed, was the direct experience of ecstatic union with God. These 3 levels connect very directly to the tarot, not only in the 3 lines, but the 3 specific trumps, which together form an isosceles triangle. The first level we see is in the Hierophant. The third, directly below the Hierophant, 1 level removed, appears in the Joyous Child of card 19, the Sun. The second level, however, comes not in the card between them, the Hanged Man, but on the other end of the pattern, as the second card in the second line, the Hermit. Doctrine and mystery both came as the end of a process. Doctrine, because you first must arrange your life before you can approach the study of a special way. Kabbalists often restricted certain important texts to people over 35 years. In ecstasy, because you first must pass the archetypal confrontation with the darkness and mystery. A guide, however, appears at the very start of the journey after the traveler has found the strength to begin. As an emblem of personal development rather than a guide, the hermit signifies the idea that only withdrawing from the outer world can awaken the inner self. Those who see the tarot in 2 halves, with the Wheel of Fortune as the midpoint, view the hermit as the period of contemplation before the wheel of life turns toward its second half. When we view the tarot in lines of 7, we see that this withdrawal, the vision of the wheel itself, are steps towards a greater goal. We see the hermit on a cold, lonely peak. He has left the world of the senses to enter the mind. This image of the mind as stark and chill conveys only a partial truth, or rather an illusion. The mind is rich with symbols, with joy, with the light and love of spirit. But before we can apprehend these things, we must first experience the mind as a silent alternative to the noisy world of the senses. For shamans, the barren peak is often a direct reality. In pieces as far apart as Siberia and the American Southwest, shaman candidates go alone into the wilderness to seek the spirit guides who will teach them how to heal. The hermit signifies a transition through the techniques, the meditation, or psychic discipline or analysis. We allow the hidden parts of the psyche to begin to speak to us. Later, we will experience a sense of rebirth, first as an angel, the eternal part of the self beyond the ego, then later the more deeply felt as a free child riding forth from the garden of the past experience. For now, the path belongs to the image of the wise old man, alone, supported, warmed by his still gray cloak of contemplation. The symbol of the lantern returns us to the hermit as guide and teacher. He holds the light out to us, indicating his willingness to lead us and our ability to find the way if we will only use the strength we have to follow. In some decks, the hermit conceals his lantern under his cloak, and then it symbolizes the light of the unconscious hidden under the cloak of the conscious mind by making it visible yet within a lantern. The rider pack indicates that we release the light through a definite process of self-awareness and that this process is available to anyone. We have seen the star both as a symbol of the hermit, as a teacher, and also as a light of unconscious, beckoning us to discover its secrets. It further signifies the goal of resolving the opposites of life. The water and fire triangles traditionally represent not only two elements, usually opposed, but also male and female united in a single form. The hermit's staff suggests a wizard's staff, therefore the magic wand of the magician, whereas the fool used the wand instinctively. The hermit leans on it as a conscious support. It therefore symbolizes the teaching which helps open the inner awareness. Directly below the high priestess, the hermit relates to her principle of withdrawal, indicating again that we must in some sense leave the outer world if we wish to work on ourselves. As with strength, the second line reverses the sexual archetype. The role symbolism here teaches us is that a deliberate mental effort based on specific techniques and teachings teaches us beyond the locked-up intuition of the high priestess's closed temple. The waters of the temple are not fully released. The veil remains in place until the lightning of the tower. Below, the hermit tears it open under the influence of Trump 9. However, the unconscious speaks to us from behind a veil through the symbols and dreams and visions. The distinction between male, female symbolism and the reality of individual people leads us to some important realizations. About archetypes. We tend to see hermits and teachers as wise old men, even in our dreams, because our 5,000-year-old patriarchy has so impressed the image on our minds. In earlier times, the guides were, I swear I have a hair, on my face, and I can't get it off. It keeps bugging me. Okay, sorry. In earlier times, the guides were most often women, as representatives of the great goddess. Even in our age, such women as Madame Blavatsky have served this ancient function. The fact that our dreams often choose wise old men demonstrates the very important fact that the unconscious too draws its material from the cultural background of the individual dreamer. Many people view archetypes as rigid, fixed images shared by people of at all times. Rather, archetypes are tendencies for the mind to form certain kinds of images, such that of a guide and the specific form of an image takes will depend very much on a person's cultural background and experience. Medieval Grail initiations and Australian desert rites follow the same archetypal pattern. It underlines them like a grid, yet the outer form of that pattern varies immensely. The divinatory meanings of the hermit derive from both its aspects. On one hand, it symbolizes a withdrawal from outer concerns. The person may physically remove himself, but this is not really necessary. What matters is an inner transfer of attention from getting and spending, as Wordsworth called our worldly activities, to a person's inner needs. It therefore requires an emotional withdrawal from other people and from activities once thought to be all important. The card carries within it a sense of deliberate purpose, of withdrawing to work on self-development. In connection with this sense of purpose and with the picture of an old man, the card symbolizes maturity and a knowledge of what really matters in a person's life. The card can also signify assistance from a definite grid. sometimes as indicated above. A psychic guide from within, but more often a real person who will help you in your self-discoveries. Sometimes we do not ourselves recognize as such a guide exists for us. If the hermit appears in a tarot reading, it may be wise to look carefully at the people around you. If you are involved in helping others find understanding, then the hermit can symbolize you in your role as guide and teacher. When we reverse the card, we corrupt the idea of withdrawal to the same way that the high priestess reverse can mean a fear of life. The hermit reverse can indicate a fear of other people. If we withdraw from society as a retreat, then the fact of withdrawal comes more and more dominant, leading to phobias and paranoia. As with other trumps, the negative and positive aspects of the hermit depend on the context. The hermit reverse can sometimes simply mean that at this moment, the person needs to become involved with other people. Because the card, when the right way up, suggests maturity, the hermit reverse can sometimes indicate a Peter Pan attitude to life. The person hangs on to basically meaningless activities or else imitates childlike enthusiasm, like the imitation of spontaneity, as a way of avoiding responsibilities of doing something with his or her life. I first encountered the interpretation of the hermit reverse in a reading given by a man in New York to a friend of mine. I have since found it useful in many situations. Interestingly, I met the man through another friend who looked on the reader as a personal guide in her spiritual development. Whew. That's a big doozy, isn't it? All right. Time for a nap. Thank you so much for reading with me. That's 78 Degrees of Wisdom. And here again is a cute little hermit. And he's just so cute. Oh, I just love him. All right. Much love. See you tomorrow.